two huge matches announced for Bash in Berlin, as well as Roman Reigns officially attacking the Bloodline, and rumors and speculation surrounding certain stars within AEW and the WWE. All this and more on this week's episode of the J Area Podcast. What is going on, pro wrestling fans? My name is Jose Ramos Jr. Welcome again to another episode of the J Area Podcast. As you can see, I got my San Francisco Golden State Warriors jersey on, representing Stephen Curry and the victory that Team USA had in the Olympics. But regardless, today on the episode of the podcast, we have a couple of matches that have already been made official regarding Bash in Berlin. The first of which is Gunther, the new World Heavyweight Champion, will be making his first official defense against the Viper, Randy Orton. I think personally, this is a great matchup. It's a great start to a hopefully long and successful title reign for Gunther. We saw what he was able to do with the Intercontinental Championship, and not that the World Heavyweight Championship itself is devalued, but I think a long, successful title reign by someone like Gunther will only help elevate the title itself. I think it makes perfect sense. We saw what had occurred at the King and Queen of the Ring event when Gunther had defeated Randy Orton for the King of the Ring crown, except his shoulders weren't completely down. And a lot of people were discussing that. They thought, well, are we going to readdress this? Back in the previous regime, under Vince McMahon, a lot of times these instances would just get thrown under the rug. We would just move on and move past it. But this is a different type of creative. Under Triple H, a lot of these little details matter. And I feel like it's details like that help enhance the overall storytelling within the WWE. Obviously, there is a little bit of a connection between Randy Orton and Triple H given their time as members of Evolution. But just for story purposes, I could definitely see Randy Orton calling up Triple H saying, hey, I remember what she said about resolving this issue regarding the King of the Ring final. I would like to cash in on that opportunity. And for Randy Orton, it makes perfect sense. He could have immediately challenged Gunther for that title opportunity, for the King of the Ring crown. But rather than that, you're the veteran. He's been doing this for, 24 years now. Of course, I'm going to wait till Gunther finally wins that World Heavyweight Championship, and that's when I cash in. Now I get my title opportunity. An opportunity to win his 15th World Championship. He's in second place, really, behind John Cena and Ric Flair, who both hold 16 championship pieces. With Randy Orton going after Gunther, a lot of people were kind of concerned about the whole SmackDown versus Raw thing. What's the point of the draft? But when you look at it from a narrative standpoint, it makes perfect sense. We said we were going to readdress this issue and have them battle it out for who was the true victor, right? I do believe that this match is a one-off. I don't anticipate it leading to like a huge storyline down the line. No, it's going to be a one-off, and I think pretty much everybody has an idea on who's winning this match. I don't think we're going to see Randy Orton win the championship. I know it's a spoiler, obviously. Gunther just won the title. And the way the WWE has been treating Gunther throughout the course of his career, I think there's a statistic out there where if you were to accumulate all the matches, all the years that Gunther/Walter has been a part of the WWE, 75% of it has been as champion. Whether that is the United Kingdom champion, whether that is the Intercontinental champion, or whether that's the world champion, he's always had gold. And every time he's had championships around his waist, it has helped elevate the brand and the title that he associates with. I think regardless, it should be a great matchup. I'm already hyped up on how they've been telling it, right? Gunther is carving out his own legend. He's carving out his own legacy. He's professed to everyone that will listen that he is the ring general. He is the cream of the crop. And he's told Randy Orton to his face that he is a legend. And if you remember, Randy Orton back in the day was recognized for being a legend killer, which is something that they had alluded to this past week on Monday Night Raw. I love little details like that because it helps reward the audience who has stuck with them the whole time, who has went back and watched the old storylines, the old matches, and you're able to connect the dots. Because in real life, we're not going to have something occur, in our own lives and just leave it off to the side and it never happened. No, we accumulate all these experiences, all these lessons, so that down the line we can apply them. And that's what Randy Orton's doing. He has made a living off of catching people out of nowhere with the RKO. And by him telling Gunther, I want you to see it coming. That demonstrates, I think, two different things. One, it demonstrates the confidence that Randy Orton has in himself. He is one of the all-time greats, not only within the WWE, but just in the sport itself. But it's also the level of respect I think he has for Gunther. He knows that Gunther is, again, at the top of his game, at the top of the WWE right now. So he wants him to recognize. He doesn't want him to be caught off guard and, succumb to an upset victory. No, he said, I want you to know when it's coming. That way, when I beat you, it's not a complete surprise. Monday Night Raw has been on fire, but that's just one half of the main events for Bash in Berlin. Of course, that's not the only match that has been announced. We have the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes, basically selecting his next opponent in Kevin Owens. And I think the way they handled it on SmackDown was very smart. It was done very intelligently. Cody Rhodes has been battling the Bloodline for the better part of 2 years. He's enlisted the services, the help of other baby faces along the way, and Kevin Owens was at the top of that list. He and Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes as a trio have done battle not only against the Bloodline, but against the Judgment Day and within the last year. I think it makes sense for Cody Rhodes saying, you have earned this title match. Kevin Owens, on the contrary, says, I haven't earned this opportunity. There are plenty of other superstars. I don't know who he's thinking of because I can't pick out any names. But he says, there are plenty of other superstars who are well deserving of this title opportunity. He didn't want the championship match, which is very interesting in regards to the overall character of Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, for the better part of his career in the WWE, has been described as the prize fighter. Whether it was fighting for the NXT Championship down in NXT, the Intercontinental, the US, the Universal, and even most recently the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship, he has always been at the top, contending for these titles. Now, granted, he hasn't held a world title since back in 2017 when he lost the Universal Championship to Goldberg, but he's always consistently been at the top of the card. Why wouldn't he want this opportunity? He knows. He even said it in his conversation with Cody and Nick Aldis. I haven't been a champion since 2017. He said, I never received my title rematch, which is true. He never did. Because once Goldberg defeated him at Fastlane in 2017, Goldberg then moved into a program with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33. Again, readdressing the past and demonstrating why it's important to keep up with these details when it comes to the storylines of these wrestlers. But when the conversation turned to Nick Aldis saying, well, I was actually going to talk to Roman Reigns about a title opportunity, that quickly lit a fuse under Kevin Owens, recognizing that, hey, wait a minute, he's been gone for God knows how long. He held the title for well over 1,300 days, and we're just going to give him a championship opportunity? Which, I mean, that makes perfect sense. If I'm Kevin Owens, I wouldn't be too happy either. I've been here day in and day out fighting anybody that I can get my hands on. And we're just going to give this guy, a part-timer essentially, a championship opportunity. The very same thing that happened to Kevin Owens back in 2017. Goldberg was a part-timer, won the Universal Championship, and then fought another part-timer in Brock Lesnar. So it makes logical sense for Kevin Owens to feel that type of way. So he reluctantly, accepts this title opportunity. I think it's going to be a great match. I love the story they've been telling with Cody Rhodes being a fighting champion. I think it's the only option they really have in terms of a storyline for Cody Rhodes following the Bloodline. And as for Kevin Owens, this very well could be the beginning of, laying the seeds of a possible heel turn. Obviously, I'm not going to break news right now and say that he's going to turn heel. Eventually, he will. And I feel like this is the beginning of it. He's going to recognize that he has this opportunity for this championship. And I'm thinking Cody's going to emerge victorious. And that's going to really get under Kevin's skin. Because he, for a lot of people, was penciled in as the guy to defeat Roman Reigns. He had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And the Bloodline would continue to get in his business and cause him to lose these matches, giving Roman Reigns the victory. It's nothing new. It's happened to everybody, but I feel like Kevin Owens has really suffered the most over the course of 2020 to 2024. Nonetheless, these are two of the top matches, top stories heading into Bash in Berlin, but it's not, it's arguable it's not the story. Roman Reigns returned at SummerSlam. Another great return at SummerSlam. Obviously, if you remember his 2020 return when he attacked Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman in their Universal title match. But what happened on Friday Night SmackDown really sets in motion the gravity, right? The pressure that is being placed on Roman and the Bloodline. Because this was the very first time that we've seen this side of Roman Reigns. Over the course of his title reign, we saw this air of confidence, almost arrogance in Roman Reigns. But then over the course of that time, he became a little bit more calmer. And in that, it's more of a sense of confidence. He knew that nobody could touch him. But now seeing the level of disrespect that Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Jacob Fatu have basically been displaying towards Roman Reigns since his absence after WrestleMania 40, it lit a fire under Roman. You saw him, no hesitation, hit the ring and go after, the Gorillas of Destiny with the steel steps, which I released a live update reaction to that episode of Friday Night SmackDown. If you haven't checked that out, please do check that video out on the YouTube channel. And you look at the way he approached Solo Sikoa, circling around him in the ring when it was finally them two alone. Now, the argument could be made that Solo Sikoa doesn't have the same aura as, Cody Rhodes or The Rock in terms of the bloodline itself. One could even argue that he doesn't have as much aura as a Jacob Fatu, who has been out with an injury that he sustained at SummerSlam, which may be in Solo Sikoa's favor, because it's been very apparent that Jacob Fatu has been, on everybody's mind. He's been the center of attention every time he's in that ring. If we were to have a showdown between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu is there in the corner, one could argue that Jacob Fatu is now taking away that spotlight from a Solo Sikoa. I think Solo's out of his element, but I think that's the point of this story. He wants to be ready, but he's not. And Roman Reigns is there to humble him. You saw the focus on the Ulafala that Solo Sikoa has been wearing ever since Roman Reigns had left, after his loss at WrestleMania 40. It has become a symbol of excellence. It has become a symbol of prestige and honor, to the point where when Roman was about to grab it and he was attacked by Tama Tonga, Solo calling out for the Ulafala, and Tama Tonga takes a second and really looks at it, almost as if he's under some sort of trance, bewildered by the power that is within the Ulafala, until he finally gives it up to Solo Sikoa. Not unlike the way Solo Sikoa had eyed it, about a year or two ago during the Bloodline Civil War. Will they have a match at Bash in Berlin? That's yet to be determined. I think they probably will. I think it's a match warranted, for such a PLE. But it's definitely something that could be dragged out. I do think we're going to be seeing Paul Heyman and Jimmy Uso any week now, right? And even with the absence of Jacob Fatu, that lends another opportunity to have like this big pop, this big return for a member within this storyline. SmackDown itself was a successful show, but it wasn't only the big news coming out of the week in the WWE. One topic I did want to touch on real briefly was that of Seth Rollins. Obviously, if you watch the post-show reaction for Monday Night Raw, I did talk about how Bronson Reed had attacked Seth Rollins with not one, not two, not three, four, five, but 6 huge tsunamis from the top rope. And they really hinted on commentary as well as via Adam Pearce that Seth Rollins might have sustained some sort of injury, whether it's internal bleeding or his broken ribs. On Twitter, Adam Pearce did release a video. And in kayfabe, of course, he reveals that there was a little bit of cracked ribs and internal injuries sustained by the attack of Bronson Reed. But reports have been saying that Seth Rollins hasn't fully recovered from his injuries. It's nothing major, but just some stuff that's been nagging at him since WrestleMania 40. Which begs the question, did they ask him back too early? And if so, why? Well, I think it's simple why. It allowed them to have a new, fresh matchup for Money in the Bank when Seth Rollins had fought Damian Priest. Was it the right call? One could argue that, whether Seth was ready or not. But even doing so, perhaps it was a way to get that storyline moving into SummerSlam with the special guest referee spot. I, for one, am a huge fan of Seth Rollins. I think he's one of the best talents that they have in the WWE. He has consistently been a top star, a top draw, and has been providing some of the best matches ever since the breakup of the Shield. So I'm hoping for at least a full recovery. Obviously, we can't say speedy because we don't know. It's nagging injuries that have compiled up over the course of his career. But I do hope that he's able to heal up just enough to begin this program with Bronson Reed, because that's something fresh. That's something new, and it gives an opportunity to another fresh face in Bronson Reed. And we know that the ultimate end game will be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. Now, whether it takes place at WrestleMania, that is yet to be seen. I think for sure it is a match that's worthy of WrestleMania, and I, for one, hope to God that it does happen, because we were supposed to have that at this past year's, but due to the circumstances of CM Punk's injury, we were not able to see that. But I think everything worked out in the end, given the success of WrestleMania 40 and the current state of their respective storylines and or stances within the company. Seth Rollins continues to be a real valuable asset to WWE television. And speaking of valuable assets, look no further than NXT. I know we don't really talk about NXT often on the podcast, but I really wanted to discuss Wes Lee. Wes Lee, who has been a staple of NXT for the last couple of years, whether it was as the North American champion, the tag team champions with his MSK tag team partner Zachary Wentz, and now looking at the evolution of the character. We know the partnership within TNA has been going on for quite some time. I think it's been successful. I'm entertained by it. It's something fresh. It's something new. But given that a couple weeks ago, Wes Lee, following his loss to Obafemi, was left at a crossroads. He didn't know where to go. He didn't know what else he needed to do. He contemplated leaving NXT before a surprise return of Zachary Wentz, his MSK tag team partner, as well as another member of the Rascals, Trey Miguel. See, back in 2020, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, and Wes Lee were all members of the Rascals in TNA. Unfortunately for them, they kind of dissolved when MSK, being Wentz and Wes Lee, had jumped to NXT. So we get a little reunion, and I love reunions. It was great. We had a couple of great six-man tags that involved the Rascals, and ultimately it led to the NXT Tag Team Championship match last week when we saw Wentz and Wes Lee unfortunately lose to Axiom and Nathan Frazer. I thought, MSK was going to win the championship. I thought it'd be cool, a real cool moment and a fun storyline to move forward with this TNA partnership with NXT. But ultimately they were unsuccessful. And it led to Wes Lee just heartbroken by this loss. And unfortunately he takes it out on his partner Zachary Wentz and then on another friend, Trey Miguel. And he's screaming at them, you left me, you deserted me. Because there was a time being when they were the tag team champions, Zachary Wentz was surprisingly released for personal reasons. If you don't know, go ahead and look into it online. And seeing that type of storytelling, again, not insulting the intelligence of the audience member, but simply by saying, you left me, you deserted me here on NXT, I was by myself. Number one, it makes sense. I think some of the best villains are where you can see where they're coming from, where they are correct in their own mind. I can understand why Wes Lee is upset. He was alone. All he knew was wrestling with his brothers. So he was left to fend off for himself. But at the same time, it's not like it was Zachary Wentz's fault. He was released. He had to go. Did it catch me off guard? You better believe it. Am I looking forward to seeing where we go from it? Absolutely. We haven't seen Wes Lee as a heel in the WWE. And to see him as a solo heel competitor, I think will be very interesting, given his style. not many times do we see successful, well, I don't want to say we don't see successful, but it's interesting to see smaller heels, because a lot of times those kind of heels are like the cowardly ones who kind of punch you and then run away. I want to see Wes Lee tap this aggressive side. I don't want him to be the kind of heel who, picks a fight and then runs away. I want a conniving heel that really hones in on the idea of, like, number one, I know you don't like me, and number two, I don't care. And that's what's so fun about NXT, is we're getting to see all these young talent hone in on their skills and trying to become, one of the bigger stars in pro wrestling in terms of the future. And you want to talk about the future, you look at what's happening with AEW. I'm a big fan of AEW. I love what they're doing in terms of the in-ring product. I know sometimes they get a little bit of a bad reputation of their storylines as well as the management or mismanagement by Tony Khan. But I would be remiss to not talk about the contract status of a few of their stars. Number one, reports are saying that the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon, and Rey Fenix are looking to allow their contracts to expire with All Elite Wrestling and pursuing a career in the WWE. Now, again, these are just reports. Nothing's concrete. I'm just talking strictly with you guys as fans. But if these reports are to be believed, it's also said they want to be a package deal, that they want to go together and they don't want to go to NXT, right? Imagining the potential of seeing the Lucha Brothers against the likes of, like, DIY, against the likes of the Street Profits, perhaps even a reunion of the Usos. So many names that they could be combating against. Will it happen? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But when I look at the Lucha Brothers, these guys were like the main pillars of those early days in All Elite Wrestling. They were the tag team division along the likes of, like, the Young Bucks, and if you remember SCU, Scorpion Sky, Frankie Kazarian, and Chris Daniels. What happened to the Lucha Brothers? These guys were consistently provided on television, having great matches, and somewhere along the line, I don't want to say they fell off, but somewhere along the line, I don't feel like they got as many opportunities to present their tag team expertise as much as they did before. They were always involved in these trios matches, these multi-man matches. There was a time being when they were trying to get Rey Fenix and Pentagon pushed as single stars on their own. But I've always loved them as a tag team. The chemistry between those two is second to none. And to see the way that they began to fizzle out of AEW's tag team ranks, and AEW was prided with having one of the best tag team divisions in wrestling for quite some time. And somewhere along the line, I just feel like that's kind of changed. If Lucha Brothers were to show up in the WWE, that would be a huge get for them. Because you're already talking about a company that has gained the services of individuals like Julia, of like a Stephanie Vaquer. You're talking about regaining the services of an Andrade. And then on top of that, there's the potential of the Motor City Machine Guns, a tag team from TNA, jumping over the WWE, and now the Lucha Brothers. Astronomical. Huge. Like that, that's an understatement. And that's not even the only star that reportedly, again, I use the word reportedly because, I mean, what do we know? We're just fans watching a product. That Ricky Starks, another AEW star, could be jumping over to the WWE. Now, everyone knows he's good buddies with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. I don't know if you heard of him. Does it make sense? Yeah. Because Ricky Starks is another one of those guys who had so much potential. He had great programs with a CM Punk, with a Bryan Danielson, just to name some off the top of my head. And then you look at what he was able to do with Team Taz, Hobbs. And then, most recently, he was a tag team champion with Big Bill. And following that championship loss to Sting and Darby Allin, back in the spring of this year, following that, what really did they do with him? It's been quite some time since we've seen Ricky Starks. And he's a star in the making. He has the look. He has the charisma. He has the in-ring talent. I do think, obviously, there are some things that he can hone in on and, learn a new hold, as they say. But the potential's there. And there's a lot of times that AEW will claim that, oh, this star is a star in the making. He's the future. Well, a lot of times, sometimes you have to capitalize on it. And Ricky Starks is another one of those guys that I feel like got lost in the shuffle. And seeing guys like the Lucha Brothers and Ricky Starks potentially jump over to the WWE, it really got me reminiscing about the Monday Night Wars. You look at how WCW and the WWF at that time were competing against one another. It was an arms race. It was a race for talent. The side of WCW had gotten well-established names from the WWF. Guys like a Hulk Hogan. Guys like a Randy Savage. Warrior. Scott Hall. Kevin Nash. Just to name a few. Roddy Piper. And the WWE was losing their top value guys. But in return, those top value guys were taking the top spots in WCW, so it led to guys like a Steve Austin, like a Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, to jump over to the WWE, looking for new opportunities, and becoming the talents and the legends that we know today. Doesn't it sound eerily similar to how AEW acquired the services Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, just to name a few, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, established veterans from the WWE. And in return, the WWE has gotten some of their younger guys. Jade Cargill, Ethan Page, Lexis King. I would argue Cody Rhodes, but he was already a WWE guy. So there's that. And they're trying. I won't say they've made them stars, because guys like Jade Cargill, I think, is already a star. Ethan Page is the current NXT champion. I'm still kind of iffy on him. As a character and as a wrestler, solid. But this run as the NXT champion, I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take, but it's giving me that JBL 2005 vibes. And I thought JBL was great in that role. But I don't want to treat Ethan Page like he's a huge commodity, like a huge signing. No, he's doing great. He's doing great. And you have like Alexis King, who's a great mid-card talent. I hope they do something with him. But we'll see. Only time will tell. But you look at also the WWE and how this is a time in the WWE where we've seen them get so many talents via free agency. We haven't even seen the likes of Julia, Stephanie Barker, start wrestling there. The Motor City Machine Guns, pretty soon are going to be showing up somewhere. We don't know where, but rumors are pointing to the WWE. And then you look at them signing Jacob Fatu, regaining the services of like Andrade. WWE right now is on fire when it comes to signing all these stars. And I would hate to see AEW lose the talent, but I'm very much interested to see how the WWE implements it into their daily programming and where they place them in the rankings and the storylines. Everyone's making fun of them because they're like, oh, are they going to throw the Lucha Brothers in the LWO? I hope not. I hope the Lucha Brothers are their own thing if they are going to WWE. Ricky Starks, I do see him succeeding in NXT, though. I think he'd be great for them. I could certainly see him be an NXT champion. Maybe a North American champion to start, but certainly as an NXT champion at one point. So he can go up to the main roster, have a run at the mid-card titles. Is he going to win the World Championship? I don't know. If you ask me right now, probably not. Probably not. But that's not to say he won't have a great career in WWE. Not to say that at all. But on the flip side, a lot of discussion has been made regarding one Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, arguably one of the best stars that WWE has had in recent memory, given his run as the WWE champion, member of the Hurt Business. He has a presence about him. And we haven't really seen him being utilized as a main event star in quite some time. Obviously, Triple H under his creative, we saw Bobby Lashley associated with the Street Profits forming the Pride. And there was an interview where they asked Bobby Lashley about the direction that the WWE was under right now. And again, not verbatim, but he basically had said that he preferred the side of Vince McMahon. He felt comfortable with him. He's worked with him for so long. They have a relationship with one another. They know how each other works. And it's like, that's hard to argue. Because when Bobby Lashley joined, 2005, way back when he returned. It was, I believe, after WrestleMania 34. Still ran by McMahon. His world title runs, the Hurt Business, all under Vince McMahon. He doesn't really have that working relationship with Triple H, and he did make this comment that Triple H has his guys. Again, not an inaccurate statement. Triple H, for years, was working with NXT, so he has that core group of guys, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, just to name a few, as members of those groups. But then there's a crossroads. If you don't like the direction of your character or where you're currently standing, then maybe it's time to change. And I hate to see him go, but I do want to see Bobby Lashley succeed. But if we do see Bobby Lashley leave the WWE for elsewhere, where would it be? A very popular answer would be All Elite Wrestling. Tony Khan certainly has the cachet to sign an individual such as Bobby Lashley. We've seen him done so with recent signings such as Mercedes Moné, Okada, Will Ospreay. I'm sure he can spare a couple of dimes for a Bobby Lashley. But you know where I think would be really interesting? TNA. Bobby Lashley already has a history there. He's a former TNA Impact champion. He was there for years during his little mini break from the WWE. Seeing him go up against a guy like Nick Nemeth for the World Championship, having him compete against Moose, tell me that isn't very appealing to TNA fans or just pro wrestling fans in general. Regardless, I think it'd be very interesting to see him elsewhere. I would love to see the direction of the character and how his presence is outside of the WWE. And a thought just crossed my head, but isn't MVP also a free agent? What if those two travel together as a unit? Just saying. But regardless, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Bloodline versus Roman Reigns? Which match are you looking forward to the most at Bash in Berlin? And what are your thoughts on the NXT heel turn of Wes Lee, as well as the potential of seeing these AEW guys now in the WWE? Of course, if you guys like this episode, please make sure to press the thumbs up for a like. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions on the episode. And if you want to keep up to date with all the content on this channel, including my post-show reactions, other episodes of the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the channel as we continue to grow from the ground up. And with that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you guys for joining me again on an episode of the J Area Podcast, and I will see you all next time.